So Buffy's getting a reboot, and while I'm happy that Sarah Michelle Gellar is signing off on this one, I have what I'm gonna call fantasy reboot fatigue. And it is exactly what it sounds like. Just the fatigue of watching fantasy shows slash movies slash Disney rebooting series that nobody asked them for. Now, I completely understand why a company might choose to remake or reboot a series as opposed to coming up with something completely different. And one of my mutuals, Bishop Mortimer, talked about this a while ago, but it is exhausting. And what we end up with typically are these TV shows and movies that lack the charm of the original. And what we tend to end up with are these watered down versions of these TV shows and movies. They lack the essence of the original, and we're left with this terrible knockoff. Now, unlike the Buffy reboot, which appears to have support, the Charmed reboot that we got in 2018 did not have the same support from its original cast. And I made a video about this a while ago. I think that it's so important when you're choosing to remake a series that you have a proper baton pass. So for instance, one of the best examples that we have of a proper baton passing is Sabrina. So we have a bunch of different iterations of Sabrina, the animated series, the Teenage Witch, but then Netflix came out with Chaos. And I made a video about this as well, how they rebooted a lot of witchy TV shows in 2018, but Chaos had the backing of the original Sabrina the Teenage Witch cast. Melissa Joan Hart was watching the trailer, but then they did something so unique and so different than what we're typically seeing in these reboots. They are making a completely different premise out of the TV show. So Sabrina the Teenage Witch was campy, it was cute, it was a high school love story with some magic built in. But Chaos, completely different show. It was meant to be scary, it was meant to be different, it was meant to create a Sabrina that most people were unfamiliar with, and it did just that. And so, although they both have the same name, we understand that these are completely different works, and I think people were receptive to that. But then you take Charmed, for example, you basically sold us a completely different work, but then you gave us a watered down version of the original. In fact, you made it a pocket universe, which to me, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, they should have led with season 4 and worked backward. I think it would have been a better payoff that way, but alas. Anyways, one of the things that I am getting really tired of in the supernatural fantasy genre, and I am saying this across all fantasy works, across all genres, is the fact that we are not getting the creativity that we used to. And like I mentioned, I understand that it's profitable likely for these companies, networks to hedge their bets on previously successful series, but I think we are starting to squeeze out real creativity and we're not taking the risk. And I think there's a lot of payoff. Sinners prove that people have an interest in creative, new, raw, non-adapted works. You can make money off of this. There is money in trailblazing still. And it's not like the Vampires and Sinners were revolutionary at all, but at least in Sinners, we got a creative, unique work. And that's not something that we're really getting a lot of today. And so even with Practical Magic, although yes, I will be in theaters when it airs, I still feel like this is just a watered down version trying to milk a franchise or at least a movie that was so popular and so beloved. Now I understand technically Practical Magic falls into cult classic category, but I think they're trying to make it a bigger franchise, and I don't know if I think that's necessary. And again, one of the things that is really driving me nuts about some of the reboots we're having is the 20-year sequels. We saw it with Hocus Pocus, we're seeing it with Practical Magic, we're seeing it with Freakier Friday, we're seeing it with I Know What You Did Last Summer. Oh, don't even get me started with that. Again, milking the hell out of these slasher franchises. We're getting another Saw, we got another Final Destination, we're getting another I Know What You Did Last Summer. So all of these things are just becoming tiring. There's nothing new, nothing interesting. And we know that while there might be a different killer under the mask, so to speak, it's still going to be the same old plot recycled. We're just going to see the characters phase out after all this time. Anyways, I want to know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Are you guys feeling the same way? Are you excited about these reboots? And I should add, although I am tired of it, I still will be watching every single one because I love the genre, I love the supernatural, but I want to see more creative and original works, even if that means taking a risk. And then in my next video, we might even discuss how when there are original works, they don't last very long. And I see this happening with Netflix all the time. So I think we might be doomed to repeat sequels and franchises of past, and it's just starting to get tiring. Anyways, drop your thoughts in the comments and I will see you guys in my next video.